What's up, Scampers? Welcome to a Scamp modification video. Anyone who's spent time in a Scamp knows how frustrating these cabinets can be. There's nothing to hold them open, so you either have to just use one hand or hold it open with your head if you want to use two hands, or prop it open with something. So it's been pretty frustrating, and today I'm going to do something about it. I've purchased these little struts off of Amazon. They're the Dare Blue N100 and they're the 6-inch size. I'll put a link to these in the description below. And they come in pairs, but I think these cabinets are so light, I'll probably only just need one for each of the cabinets. But I have 4, so maybe I'll end up putting some on the cabinets in the back of the Scamp as well if they fit. But for now, let's just put them in the kitchen and see how they work out. The struts come with these rotating pieces to attach it to your cabinetry. And this one will fit right up here on the cabinet, but this portion down here is meant to screw into something sideways. And because the fiberglass cabinets on these Scamps are so thin, there's really nothing to attach them to. So I'm going to have to put something here that I can attach this half of the strut to. So let me show you what I came up with. Normally, I try to keep all of my solutions damage-free in order to retain the resale value of my Scamp, but this is an improvement that I think will be a long-lasting one that I'll never want to get rid of. I think it's going to be such a game changer that I'm okay with making this one permanent. So what I've done is I've come up with a piece of wood that I can fit right here between these two cabinets. I'm going to adhere it to the fiberglass, and then that gives me something to screw my struts into and give that support that they need to hold the cabinetry open. So it'll have screw holes here and here that are permanent in the cabinetry, and this piece of wood will be glued back here, but I think that it's going to be so worth it. I'll probably never want to remove these, so I'm okay with making alterations that are permanent to the Scamp for this one. I know you all love measurements, so for reference, this is just a hair under 11.5 inches tall. Just a teeny tiny bit over 3 inches wide and 7/8 of an inch thick. The thickness I'm going with here means I'll only be able to use 2 out of the 3 screw holes that come on this hardware here. If you look, there's a third one there that won't be able to attach. But because these cabinets are so light and there's such limited space in them, I didn't want a super thick piece of wood taking up more space than necessary. So I think 2 out of 3 screws will suffice for these tiny cabinets in the Scamp. So I'm going to try it that way and we'll see how it works out. I've got my cabinets propped open so I can work here. I've got my wood cut to size and sanded. So I'm just going to adhere it where it's going to go with some glue. We'll let it dry and then we'll install the hardware. Since I'll be bonding wood to fiberglass, I can't use wood glue, so I'm going to use Gorilla Glue because this stuff will bond to virtually anything. Some things to note about Gorilla Glue is that it is activated by water, so you need to get one of the pieces you're gluing damp so it can start that curing process. And it actually expands as it cures, so you don't want to overdo it. I'm going to start with just a little bit on here. I don't want to go too crazy because it will expand pretty significantly. I'm just going to use an old shim. Just kind of spread this on here. Get a nice little slathering. I'm going to clean up the edges where I got a little too much. And I'm going to clamp this in place so it can start drying. That's centered where I want it. Now I just need to give this a couple hours to dry. While I'm waiting for that to cure, I can start measuring out where I'm going to put in my hardware. These do come disassembled. They won't be installed yet, so you can install them without this other piece in the way. But I put this one together to use to kind of measure and make sure I'm getting my holes in the right place. So that's what I'm going to do next, is get these lined up and start my holes so my screws have something to bite into. I do want to mention that the screws that came with this look like they might be just a little bit too long. They could end up punching out the other side, even with this here as a spacer. So I'm going to see if I can find some washers to use so I make sure that these don't come punching out the other side, because I don't have any screws that are smaller that'll fit through this hardware. So I'm going to see if I can find some washers, kind of create a little gap there so these don't punch through the other side. I was able to find some washers, so I put them right there on the screws before I put them in the hardware. So when I install them, they'll look like this, and that'll create a little gap so these screws don't come popping out the other side of my cabinets, because I don't want holes all the way through. That wouldn't look very good. So this is what I'm going to do. If you order the same stuff, you might want to make sure that you get some washers to go with them too. As I'm measuring out where I want these to go, I want to just ensure that I leave enough room that this portion can clear the fiberglass when it closes. If I install it here, it's not going to be able to close. So I have to make sure that I put it in enough that I can clear this cabinet when I close it. I want it to be able to close smoothly without scraping. So I've got this mounting hardware where I should have clearance in all directions. I'm going to take my pen and mark the center on both of these screw holes. So if I mark the middle, then I'll have some wiggle room, because the bracket has wiggle room for where the screws can go. So that's where I'm going to put my first one, and if it works out well, then I'll just replicate this for the cabinet next door. Now what I'm going to do is take this nail and just punch it right into the center of those holes and give my screws a good starting point that they can grab onto. So I'm just going to use this nail and a hammer. Doesn't have to be huge, just a little centering point for the screw so it won't slip when I start drilling it in. Next, I'm just going to start the screws a little bit without the hardware there, so once I'm holding the hardware there, I have a little more to grab onto. Going in there pretty easy. Can back it out, start the next one. I don't want to go too far because I want the screws to be able to bite into something when I put them in permanently. Next, I'm going to take my hardware and I'm going to use a hand driver to put it in there, because again, I don't want to strip it and I want the screws to have something to bite into. And I've put the washers here between the hardware and the screw, so hopefully it doesn't go all the way through to the other side and peek out. Let's get the other one started. Having those holes already started a little bit definitely helps, and then I can get this kind of centered before I finish tightening it down. Pretty sturdy. Let's check the other side. Didn't come through the other side, so those washers did the trick. That's wonderful. I might crank them down just a hair more just to get them nice and snug. There we go. I am going to leave the clamps here just because I want to give this a full 24 hours to cure, since it's going to have a lot of pressure on it when it's closing. But with the clamps there, I can still install everything and see how they work out and not have to worry about the glue coming unstuck in this piece flying out the back when I close the cabinet. These are pretty hard to compress. They're very strong. So with all that pressure, it could just push the wood right off the back. So I'm just going to leave the clamps on there for a full 24 hours, like I said, just to make sure that it's good and adhered, so this doesn't just come falling out the back once I close the cabinets. I can install this one. It just snaps right into place there. Just like that. And then that tells me where I'm going to need to put my lower mounting bracket. And then I'll be able to close this and see how it works out. Just going to install the lower mounting hardware piece. That also just clips in. And I'm going to rotate it and make sure that I get it lined up so I can get 2 screws in there. So at least 2 out of 3 are holding on and getting a good bite. I can mark where those go with my pen. So now I can punch a starting hole like I did before, and hopefully the clamps will just hold that wood in place. Now I've got to pop this piece back out because of the way it is. The strut will get in the way if I try to get those screws in. So maybe that wasn't the best order of operations, but it helped me measure. So I'm just going to pop this piece back out. This looks like it just has a clamp right here. I get that clamp out. Should release that bracket. Yep. Yep, that's what it needed. Now I'm going to start my holes with the power drill like I did before, but I am not left-handed, so this is going to be awkward. Now I can hand install the rest of the way. I should really not have popped this little bracket out. It's giving me way more trouble than I anticipated. Let me get that back on there. There it goes. Goodness. All right. Now it's time for the moment of truth. Get that hooked in here. This is what it looks like. I've got it screwed in here. I put in the washers to make sure the screws weren't too long. I've got 2 screws with good bite here. The glue isn't fully done curing, so I'm just going to remove this 1 clamp and we'll see what happens when I close it. I'm going to get rid of my duct tape solution here. Okay, here we go. Oh my gosh. Holds it up perfectly. Oh, I'm so excited about this. Oh my gosh, this changes everything. Hallelujah. Oh yeah. I'll give you a shot from inside so you can see how it's working and how it's clearing. This is freaking cool. I'm so excited that I did this. All right. Are you ready for this? Hands free, y'all. Hands free. Hands free. Oh my gosh, that's so amazing. Now I can actually put stuff in here and get like heavy pots and pans in and out of this cabinet. This is a game changer. Heck yeah, that's awesome. This is a game changer. This staying open on its own is probably one of my favorite modifications so far. So I'll install the other one and I'll do it kind of quickly so you can see it done one more time in case you missed anything. But I'm not going to talk you through it this time. I'm just going to do it quickly. And if y'all have any questions, just put them in the comments below and I'll get right back to you on those. But let's do the other side. There it is, y'all. Easy modification, huge difference. So if your cabinets have been driving you nuts and you want to do something about it, I'll leave links to everything I use for this project in the video description below. And if you found value in this video, consider subscribing. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Happy scamping.